Welcome to the Lifestyle Builders Podcast, Show 32. In our last episode, we talked about bookkeeping systems and processes. In today's episode, we're chatting with guest and lifestyle builder Kristen Brandt. Hey, you guys, so a little bit more about Kristen. She is a web and graphic designer with a passion for cohesive brands and beautiful websites. She's got a 7-year-old son and a wonderful teacher husband who doesn't have an entrepreneurial bone in his body. She's a former college athlete and a diehard Wisconsin Badger fan.
So did I put an entrepreneurial bone in your body or?
I don't know. I think you just tweaked some things a little bit. Maybe it's just
just move some stuff around.
I don't know.
Rewire the brain. But anyways, this is a great episode with Kristen. We've been working with her a little bit, and she's made some shifts and pivots in her business, which I think a lot of people go through.
Yeah.
And as you make those, you're kind of in this new territory. You've got, you maybe don't know your avatar as much. You have some questions around pricing and your products. And we dive into a lot of that on this episode.
Yeah, we talked about, what does it mean when you're a service-based provider and you switch from moving into projects to on a retainer base? Because, that is a really good option to have as a service-based business owner, instead of just doing one-time projects here and there, to have those longer retainer contracts. But it can bring up a lot of questions around pricing, around how to formulate those contracts, how to figure out what you're going to offer in those.
Yep. So a lot of good stuff in this episode around services, products, marketing, pricing, a little bit of everything. So with that, we'll let you guys listen to the episode and enjoy.
All right, everyone, we're so excited to have Kristen on the show with us today. Kristen, why don't you give everyone a little bit of your background, your history of how you came to be an entrepreneur and a lifestyle builder?
Yeah, absolutely. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My dad is a dentist. He owned his own office for 30 years, and now he still does that in his retirement. So he retired to keep doing exactly what he was doing before.
How it happened.
That's how entrepreneurs are, right?
Yes. And he's a huge idea person, always encouraged us to do that kind of stuff. And then my mom's the rational finance one. So balance it out really good. So I've always had that in mind of, doing something for myself, no matter, where I was as far as my career. And, went through a lot of different options. I did the MLM world for a while, started kind of my own personal brand there, and it just ended up being a little bit too restrictive for what I wanted to do in business. So once I finished my web and graphic design degree, I moved into doing more of that. I've always been really creative. I love technology, so it kind of was just a really good fit for my personality and my skills. So I moved into web and graphic design. I started out with focusing on actually that same MLM group that I was working in. Since I knew the business, I knew the people, I kind of knew what they needed. So I started there with the intention of doing web and graphic design strictly for that population. And what I found myself out to being, kind of what it evolved into, is being a coach for that group of people, which is totally not at all what I wanted to be doing. So I ended up having more of a product-based business. I was developing trainings and printables and planners and all kinds of things for that population of MLMers, instead of actually getting to do a lot of web and graphic design. I was still taking on some clients, but it wasn't the majority of what I was doing. So at the end of 2017, I made the decision to switch my focus to exclusively web and graphic design. I took January and February to kind of revamp my personal brand. Had an old website hanging out there with my name, so I redid all of that, got focused on what I wanted to do with my packages and those kinds of things, and then just kind of started to evolve my brand into more web and graphic design focused, as opposed to focusing with those MLM people. And I do still work with them, but only on a web and graphic design basis.
Yeah, I love that, and it's so important, I think, for people to hear that story of it's okay to pivot. And it's okay to get into doing something and then figure out that that's not exactly what you want to be doing, and to shift away. And that's what it's about. It's your business. It's your life. So you have those choices to make when you become an entrepreneur. And a lot of us, I think, are too invested in I started this and I need to finish it, instead of saying, no, this really doesn't work and I need to change something or I'm going to be miserable, because no one
Yeah.
wants that either.
And I'm totally not. I'm not averse to change at all. I am a shiny object syndromer to the core. Like I am the president of the club, and I'm the vice president, and I'm the treasurer. Like I am all of it. So like normally I'm more of I'm trying to stay focused on what I'm working on as opposed to picking up other projects. But I had been kind of forcing myself to work it out and stay in that mindset of, okay, well, maybe I just need to keep working and then it'll work itself out, until I finally came to realize that I wasn't sure I really wanted to work itself out. It just wasn't the audience and it wasn't what I wanted to be doing. So I did just make the decision to kind of, I told my audience what I was doing. I said, hey, you're certainly still welcome to work with me, but I'm no longer going to be supporting you in a coaching kind of platform. So.
All right. So your first question for us today is involving promoting your business outside of saying, hey, I do design.
Yeah, it's
jump into that.
Yeah, it's a different, service-based business, and a lot of people think it's, super easy thing to promote because, people need websites and people need graphic design. But it's a little bit harder, and maybe this is just my opinion because I'm biased because it's what I do, but it's a little bit harder to kind of, explain those things to people as opposed to, here's what business coaching will do for you, or here's what personal training will do for you. People are pretty clear usually on what the results are of those. People know they need websites, and people know that, eventually at some point they need to brand their business. But in this day and age, there's a lot of ways for them to do that themselves. Now, that's not always the best direction to go. There's lots of free website platform builders like Wix and Weebly and all those other ones that are out there. And there's free graphic programs like Canva and all the phone apps, which are great for when you're kind of bootstrapping it or you need to do something on the fly. But it's difficult to explain to people why and how it's important to have a professional website or professional graphics when they just see, well, I'll just do it on Canva and it'll be fine.
Yeah.
And then, they post something to their Facebook and it's all pixelated and there's 38 different fonts on it and and their picture is stretched and all that kind of stuff. And they just are kind of like, well, I'm just in the bootstrapping phase, so no biggie. But they're not getting the idea of how their brand is coming off that way. And it's not the most important thing. The important thing in your business is to have a purpose and have an audience and, to be working in that. But at the same time as, your audience is seeing your brand in a certain way when you are posting those kinds of images or you are sharing a website that my 7-year-old could have made, so it's, and it's hard to tell people that, it's really hard. I think I talked about this with you guys on a previous conversation, is it's hard to say, hey, I need to help you because your website is terrible. And like, that's a really hard thing to say. So that's kind of where,
nicely.
Yes, that's kind of where I'm struggling because in my previous business, I was, and it was kind of unintentional. It's just the way that it evolved is I was coming up with challenges and products and guides and things for these people because I was trying to engage them in a way that I could then eventually promote some paid products or paid services that I had. Whereas I find that a little bit more difficult with web and graphic design because they are digitally tangible things. I can't just say, hey, here's a free image. I mean, I can do that, but I can only do that for so long.
Yeah.
All right. So let me jump in. So why would somebody come and work with somebody like you when there are Wix and Canva and all these free options available?
That's a great question. I think one of the biggest reasons, and don't get me wrong, I think those things are essential to have when you're starting your business. But when you're somebody who's been doing the bootstrapping thing for a while, you're ready to make a change and kind of up-level yourself in that business, your audience is going to change. You're not going to work with those same kind of entry-level clients that most people start with when they're beginning their, whatever business that they have. And people who are coming to your site, they're going to want to see the professionalism. They want to see that they can figure out how to contact you immediately. They want to see that you have, your details and your qualifications and what you do accurately displayed on your website, that it's laid out in a way that they can understand, that you're explaining to them how you're going to fix their issue without having to search through their entire website, that it's mobilely responsive, that your images are sized properly, that your headings and everything are laid out properly. And those are things that you don't always know when you're going with a free website builder. You're just trying to make it look pretty, which is totally great.
I'm going to stop you there. So you have a lot of knowledge because you're deep into this, but a customer, somebody that you're going to try to work with, most of them likely are not going to care about a lot of the stuff you just mentioned.
Sure.
Right. So what pain or what struggle are they having that you want to be talking to? Like, so run me through quick. Who is your ideal customer? Who is the person that you'd love to be working with?
So my ideal customer is someone who's, like I mentioned before, they're looking to take that next step in their business from being a bootstrapper to being a little bit more of a professional entrepreneur. They're looking to kind of level up in their audience, step out of the entry-level kind of customers that maybe they started taking on when they started their business, increase their pricing, increase their offerings. So they're looking to professionalize their business, for lack of a better term.
Okay. So is that terminology that they would say to you?
I think a lot of people recognize, maybe not the exact wording, but I would, they want their website to be better. That's what I hear a lot is, I want a better website. I don't even know if they really know what that means. But they know that their website looks different than either A, their competitors, or B, their influencers. So they know that there's a difference there and they want it to be better. I don't really know if they even know what they want.
Okay.
They just want it to be better.
So that piece you said right there is where I would really build off of. They know they want their website to be better, but they're not really sure why.
Or how.
Sure.
Or how, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what you're going to start with there, if those are your people and that's what they're coming to, is you're going to start educating them on, what the benefits are to being better and why their competitors are making more money, getting more leads, whatever is important or whatever they see as their problem. And you're going to show them why the website they have now is holding them back from getting that result. Right? Because
yeah, absolutely.
A lot of what tends to happen and we have it happen as well, when we get too close to the thing we're doing, we start talking more about like the features of it than ultimately really speaking to like the results and, solving that problem that people have. So my first recommendation is like just talk to as many of your ideal customers as possible. And, this is not an easy thing for a lot of people to do. But I mean, like for us, even before we launched the podcast, before we launched our membership, we got on the phone with like 50 people and just talked to them. And by the time like we were done, I remember Ariana's like, I know what somebody's going to say. Yeah, she's like, I know what somebody's going to say before we even kind of get, when I ask a question, I have a pretty good feeling of what they're going to answer. And that's really the point that you want to be at, because once you have that really good understanding of what pains they have and then what their next steps are, then what you can start doing is crafting the story and the messaging and even your sales process to say, all right, this person is here. Here's the next thing they need. And then here's how I'm going to move them towards ultimately becoming a customer.
Well, and the biggest thing with when I talked to people was exactly what Tom said. I actually used their words instead of mine in a lot of like the messaging and the copy, and even just when talking to them, because I was a little bit more technical in the way that I was talking about things. But when it came to the customers, they were using different words or like describing their emotions differently or things like that. So I started to pull those things out and use that in the messaging, in any copywriting, in emails, in sales pages, all of that stuff. It came directly from the people I was talking to, so that immediately when they got onto our website or onto our sales page, they were relating to the words that I was saying, and that made them keep going. That made them go down the sales page. That made them click on to the next thing, because they were like, oh, she really gets me. Like, this is exactly how I feel. I want to keep going. Because a lot of times when people aren't sure what exactly they need, if you don't describe it to them in their own language, then they immediately like switch off, because they're like, well, I don't need that. You're like, well, yes, you do, but you have to figure out how to tell them they need it, like using their own language.
Well, and part of that, like, to be honest, you really don't want to be telling them much. You want to be asking questions. So one of the things you said was like mobile responsiveness, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how familiar, like, do you think your customers know what mobile responsiveness is and the importance of it?
I don't know if people know that that's the actual term for it. I think most people would say, I want it to look nice on a cell phone.
Okay.
You know, they don't have the terminology.
So here's what I would do. If I was talking to somebody, I would pull out their cell phone. I'd say, what's your website? And I'd pull it up and I'd say, is this how you want it to look on mobile? And they'd be like, oh my gosh, that's terrible. I've never actually looked at my website.
headline doesn't show up in my
Yeah. And then what is their problem? Like, let's say that this person, their problem was they weren't getting enough people contacting them from the website. And you pull that up on mobile and you're like, well, I can't find the button to contact you. Like, that's why you're running into this problem. And then if you were to then say, like, go and pull analytics or something and say, and did you know on average, like 60% of your visitors are going to be on cell phone? Like, I can help you fix that problem. But like now, instead of you telling them that, you're actually showing them with their device or with their website. And then it's like, oh yeah, like she's not telling me I have a problem and I can ignore it. I'm now seeing the problem like real time.
Yeah.
So like what I found a lot of times in conversations is the more you can just ask questions, what that's going to do is it's going to give you a lot of clarity on where their mindset is and how they respond. But it's also going to give them clarity because they're going to have to walk through it and really say, instead of just saying, well, I need a new website, as you start kind of diving deeper, then they're going to understand better why they need a new one and maybe some of their objections along the way.
The other thing I think I just popped into my head, something that might be really powerful for you is if you can get a couple case studies of people and have like their before website pictures and like some of their stats on like their traffic and maybe bounce rate and stuff like that, and show that to people and say, this was their old website. This was how long people were typically staying on the website before they left because they couldn't find what they need. And then here's their new website. Here's the reasons we changed these things. And then now look at the numbers and the stats, and they're getting more people to stay on their website for longer, and they're getting more sales out of it, or whatever, whatever metrics you want to use.
Yeah.
If you can do case studies, I think that helps a little bit with people who don't know how they want their website to be better or what things are wrong with their current one. You can say, well, here's one that we worked on, and they're going to see some of those same issues in that person's website that they have in their own and be like, oh my God, that looks like mine. So I need to do some work here. And then you can show them the finished product and they can say, oh my God, that works so much better. That's exactly what I want to do. So that you're taking them along that journey of, here's someone that we worked on, here's some of the issues that they had, and here's the results that they got and that they wanted. So you're kind of giving those options.
I think I do. I have put together a website self audit. So it's a checklist that goes through and is like, here are all the things that you should have in all these categories. If you're missing X number of these things, you probably need to take a look at your website. And I think that's something that I just need to get in front of some more people, because it's kind of the same idea. It's basically like, you should know by the end of the time you get to the checklist of like, wow, I only have like 7 of these 32 things checked, or however many are on there. But I definitely think that's something, and it's something I offer for free, that I need to just get in front of more people, because it's really eye-opening. I did it for myself, like, and I'm the designer, I went through and I'm like, okay, I made this checklist. I need to do it on my own website. And I'm like, oh gosh, I'm missing this one. And so I think it's a really eye-opening thing.
Say the same thing.
I would show people like I used my own checklist and found things on my own website as a designer that I didn't even have. So like,
I was realizing I was missing and God forgive me as a online marketer, I was missing social media icons on my website. I'm like, what's wrong with me? Like,
we are too. We're just putting on ours now. I'm like, oh, you don't have our social on here anywhere.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. And I did it after I went through my whole kind of rebrand. I went through the checklist and I'm like, I can't believe I forgot that. So I think it's a really eye-opening thing.
Well, and so like with the checklist, I think that's a great idea. The question I would have is, or the thing that I'd be interested in, how many people download the checklist and actually use it versus the ones that don't. But what I could see is with a case study, if you were to have that checklist, then you had, let's say, 3 case studies of different people that were like your ideal customers, and you used the checklist going through their website and then did the before and after. Now, even if somebody doesn't do the checklist their own, they might watch the video. Then if they
absolutely,
it might remind them to go back for the checklist.
Like you have that. Go use it.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they don't want to do it themselves, now you have an option to get them on a call, and maybe you'll do a low cost audit for them or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'd be happy to do, and this is something I've kind of been ramping up to do as I'm finishing a different project, but I'd like to take on some opportunities to kind of do some free audit calls and just walk people through the checklist and let's go through your website. And here's the thing, with no expectation from me, but let's go through the checklist and prove that it works, basically, and
So like a
do
beta.
some proof of concept there, and just go through that and do some kind of, follow up to that and show that proof of concept either in video or in a blog post or something like that, as well. And I think that'd be a good option for a nice piece of content to refer people to when they're trying to decide whether or not they should redesign or spend the money on a website.
Yeah. So a couple things there. If you go the free route, make sure that you're going to get value out of it. So if you give someone a free audit, make sure that they're going to do a testimonial or something.
Yep.
Another option, especially after you do maybe a couple free, offer it low cost, because you want to make some money off of it, but then credit that towards what your service will be if they're using you for that.
That's a great idea.
I would say is when you're putting the offer out there to people to do the free audits, limit it to a certain number.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm giving away 5 free audits, and then bullet point who you want to take you up on this offer, like who's your ideal customer, and list those things out so that the people say, like, only comment below if this is you, so that you're not just getting random people who may be following you on social, like, yeah, I want a free website audit, and they're like, client base at all. So you're getting those people, and say, obviously, I'm going to vet and make sure that everyone who signs up for the free audit is in that group of people. So that way,
that makes total sense.
Solid people for your free audit. That means you're going to get solid market research from them, and then they're a solid potential lead after the fact.
No, I like that a lot.
And anytime we do something free, I like to say, how do we take the free stuff that we did and put it out to the masses? So if you can do this on like a Facebook Live, or even if you can record the video and then have that later, because you're giving that person basically all this value for free, you want to make sure that you're then maximizing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing that came up as you were talking, there's like people are at different points of their buying cycle when they come to you. So somebody might be at the point of, I know I need a website, I've done my research, and now I'm just looking to hire somebody, versus somebody that doesn't know they need to update their website because they're going to have to go through a different set of processes and a different set of learning before they become a customer. So like one of the things we always recommend to people is go to that like warm or hot audience first. And those are people that have shown you basically that they're looking for a website, and you're not going to have to educate them as much on why you need a website and all of that. Because if you can, like, so for example, if somebody goes to Google and they search for, a certain term related to that, and then they say, find your blog post, or they find your ad, those are going to be much more likely to like buy in the short term compared to marketing to people that are colder. We got to take them through. So we always believe that you should be doing, some of both. But if you can really focus in on those people that are closer to buying, that's going to get you customers much faster.
Yeah, I'm working on a piece of content, and I'm not a huge content fan just because it's not my strong suit. I'd rather just design websites all day long, or graphics or whatever. But I'm actually working on a piece, and it's literally why you should work with me, and that, here's what I offer. Here's why you should work with me. If this is what you're looking for, basically just to explain some of that, because you don't always get that from just people's offerings on a website and an about me page and that type of thing. And it's, I'm an upfront person in that way. I'd rather just tell you why you should work with me instead of you having to figure it out on your own. So that's something that I'm working on right now as well, kind of intentionally at that warm market that knows that they need somebody, or knows that they need the change, or they need the help in order to kind of take that next step with their website. So I do have that in the works, as well as, trying to do some more marketing kind of towards, that market, because I'm pretty good for the most part at the education, explaining to people why they need a better website. But I think I could work on, reaching out to that warmer market, just because so much of the market that I find is the cold one. They don't know anything about websites, or they don't know why they need the new one.
Yeah, well, and part of that is I'd be looking for, like, I'd be brainstorming and saying, where are those people? Either like, where are they physically, like online, or just mentally, what are the things they're doing right before they buy? So like a good example is we have a blog post. It's like 10,000 words on how to maximize your investment with a coach. So if somebody finds that on Google, or if, like, let's say I'm in a Facebook group and somebody asks about coaching, I can share that. That person that has asked about coaching or searches for coaching is now considering hiring a coach, and they just want to do their research. So they're much more likely to then, jump on and become a customer. So that blog post, as well as the podcast and the other stuff we've created, are all for those people. And then the next step is to have them come on a call. Now, if somebody doesn't even know or think they want coaching, we have a different set of steps that we take them through. But as much as we can, we like finding those people that have already done a lot of the research and know they want coaching. Now they're just trying to figure out who they end up hiring. So you could do a lot of the same thing. You could have some of the content for the people that are warm and just get them in. And then some of the other stuff that you can always build in for people that aren't necessarily there yet, but you take them on that journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So I want to jump into your second question, because I think that's a really interesting one. And there's a lot of people in the audience that are going to benefit from listening in on that. And that is, you talked about just wanting to look for some guidance on working on retainer as opposed to a per project fee. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, and this is more targeted at my graphic design work. I carry website maintenance packages. So for people who already have the website, they have it together, but they have 27 plugins that haven't been updated in 3 years. If you're that person, please find me. So I have maintenance packages for those types of things on varying levels based on need. But as far as graphic design services are, and this actually stemmed from somebody reaching out to me, and they were looking for someone they could consistently use for graphic work. And it's not a pricing or a model that I've ever worked on before. I've generally just been a per project type of thing. You need social media images, cool. Here's 5 of them. This is what they cost. Come back to me when you need some more. And so it's something that I'm interested in. I've actually seen a lot of questions in a couple of other design groups that I've been in with that same idea. How do you figure out what's an appropriate price for a retainer? I'm not ever someone, and a lot of the responses that I see is, well, figure out what your hourly rate is. And I'm like, well, that's different depending upon the project. So it's not something that's ever kind of struck a chord with me like, oh, that makes sense. I'll charge this for X number of hours, because that's not really how I prefer to work. Like, I can do a really great project for somebody in an hour, and for somebody else, it might take me 3 hours to achieve the same great project. It really depends on what they're asking for. So it's something that I'm really interested in doing, because ideally that's what I'd like to move towards with my graphic work, is finding some clients who need some consistent images for whatever the case might be, website, social media, printables, anything, and just be on a retainer where I can meet their needs when necessary. But pricing that is super, super difficult. So I was wondering if you guys had any advice on that.
Yeah, I love this question.
I do.
So first thing, whenever we're coming to, so basically, like, for those listening that aren't aware, so project is basically a one-time thing that you offer, where retainer is more of an ongoing thing where you're getting paid like month after month.
Usually you sign a contract for a certain amount of time.
Yep. So projects are really good when it's a clear deliverable. It's usually a one-time need and it's a specific outcome. Whereas retainers are good if it's maybe not as clear. There's multiple needs, and it's usually a longer time frame. So whenever people are going back and forth on this, what I like to look at is, first, what do you want your business to look like? Because if we walk through like a business that's just projects, that means that you're going to constantly be looking for new customers. You're going to deliver that project once. You're probably going to get paid a higher fee, but then you've got to be looking for new customers. If we go with a business that's all retainer, that's pretty sweet, because you've got recurring income coming in every month. And now, instead of having to spend all your time doing marketing and sales, you're spending time delivering for your clients. Obviously, neither of those is probably ideal. It's usually a combination. So when we get into, so first off, I like to say, all right, if I look at my week, how much time do I want to be spending in various activities? And then to hit my ideal income, how would I like that breakdown? So maybe I would like 40% projects and 60% retainer. So that way I at least know how I want to structure my business. When it gets into pricing, I do like to start with what's your hourly rate, because then we can at least get a ballpark of where are we going to be at with pricing. But then what I like to look to do is say, okay, what benefit or what value are those customers going to get? Let's say, for example, you're creating graphics for them. If this was going to take them 4 hours on their own and their hourly rate that they can get from doing something else is $100, that's going to cost them $400. But if you're offering this service to them for $100, like now they're getting 4 times their return.
Mm-hmm.
I also then like to look at, well, what are competitors doing in this space? So basically, once I look at my hourly rate, once I look at what competitors are doing, and then once I look at what value it's going to come to them, usually then you can test out a pricing package from there.
Okay. I think my biggest kind of conflict with the whole concept of the retainer is that I don't have a clue what my hourly rate is, because I charge per project. And again, whether that project takes me 1 hour, 3 hours, or 12 hours, it is this price. And that's on me, because it's, what it takes me to finish that project. And that's what I've committed to the customer. So I'm having a hard time kind of coming up with what that hourly rate might look like, because it's not any way that I've ever charged before. And to figure out, how does that project rate convert into hourly rate is kind of difficult. I think the other thing that I'm struggling with is retainer clients taking advantage of the retainer and
Right.
saying, here's 78 projects for the $100 I paid you,
Yep. So for the first thing, what I would do is just say, what do you want to be making per hour? Because you're not going to accept any clients that are doing less than that. So part of the hour, like what I tell people is I'm like, let's figure out your hourly rate and then let's forget about it, because I don't want you to necessarily be billing by hour. What we ultimately want to be billing by is value delivered.
Value.
But at least the hourly rate makes sure that when we look at the other scenarios, we're not undercutting what we want to be making. In terms of people taking advantage of you, that should just be clearly outlined in what you get. So, for example, if you're going to deliver 5 graphics and, they've got 1 revision for the graphics or whatever else, you just lay those out, and then you say, and if you want additional things, here's another package that actually includes more of what you're looking for.
The thing too is, I think when you work on retainers, some of the tough issues that pop up are if you have multiple retainer clients and they have a certain amount of things they're allowed to ask you for per month. There could be the chance where you get both retainer clients asking you for all of their stuff like within 1 week, and then they don't ask you for anything else a month. So part of it too I would be looking at is, can you set some minimum and maximums around hours? So if they give you a project and it's going to take you 10 hours, then like, okay, well, I could finish that one project within a week's time or within 3 days time. But if they say, oh, well, we're paying you for the month, but here's a project that's going to take you 30 hours, then you have to have something in the contract that is going to say, I can only take this many hours per week. So if you have a project that's larger, you need to get it to me at the beginning of the month so that I have more time to finish that project for you. Because I know that comes into a lot of it as well, as you only have so many hours to work per week, and clients on retainer, part of the contract is they get to send you stuff whenever they need stuff. So having some sort of clauses in place for hours of work or maximum hours of work per certain amount of time.
Let's dive in a little deeper here. So what are you thinking of offering as a retainer as compared to a project?
Well, so the person who approached me is from that previous MLM that I was working with before. And she currently has a designer that she works with, but she's not turning her projects around fast enough. And she's been kind of just unavailable, and she likes the quality of work that she's getting and everything, but the working relationship just isn't there. And I had reached out to her previously about offering services, and she kind of just circled back around later on. And so, things that I know they would need is social media images, Facebook ad images, potentially some website images. So kind of just overarching brand graphics. Now again, a thing I would need to ask her is, how many per month can you estimate that you would need? And, in order to come up with, what would be an appropriate retainer price. And that's why I'm struggling is I don't know, do I work on a case-by-case basis with clients based on what their needs are and determine what a retainer would be for them? Because I'm trying to figure out how to put this in with my current services and what I have, because I do have packaged out prices. So I'm trying to figure out how do I offer this and how do I present this on, on my media. Whereas, because I'm someone who likes to have an idea of what things are priced. Like if I go to somebody's website and they're like, call me for pricing, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go find somebody who's telling me what their price is.
Yeah.
And because that's just, I have a business budget and I want to know before I waste somebody's time on a phone call, an idea of what they're going to charge me. And so that's kind of what I'm struggling with is it would be easier for me to price per client based on their need, what their retainer would be for the month. But I'm having a hard time with how I would represent myself that way in my offerings because that's not how I, research things. And I know there are a lot of people out there who like to see a price on a website.
Well, and I would say it's actually probably more difficult to price per client because now you've got to go through this pricing process every time you're doing more research.
Sure.
The way to have a business that runs efficiently and that you can even scale if you want to is to have packages just like you probably do for your project work. So like what in your first person you take on, sure, there's more customization. You can test and try things out. But I mean, like I'm always a fan of having 3 options, right? You have your base level, you have the next level, and then you want more. Now, if somebody wants a customization beyond that, you're going to charge them a lot more because it's custom, if you even take that on at all. But what you want to do is you want to say, here's our 3 packages. So package 1, you get 5 graphics, this and this. Package 2, you get 20 graphics or whatever that works out to be for you.
Or whatever.
Right. 2 hours. So here's the thing. You never want to do it based on hours because now you're locking yourself into that.
Right.
You're not getting paid for efficiency. So if it takes somebody else 2 hours to do something and you're efficient and you're good at what you do and you can do it in a half hour, you get paid extra because you're good at what you do. So always base it on what you're going to deliver to them. And then as much as you can have those standard packages. And now your processes all become much easier because it's like we come in, do you want the hot dog? Do you want the hamburger? Or do you want the fish? You don't get to make this customized thing.
Like
you just go into that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why fish goes with hamburgers and hot dogs, but
just random. I had to call you out.
It's Friday here in Wisconsin. Fish fries are a big deal on Friday.
All right, sure. That's where you're bringing.
That's exactly what like in that way, because I like to say, like, whenever we're designing anything, I like to say, how can we do this once? And then I can have either it's automated or I can have somebody else implement it. And like, if you're trying to do custom stuff, you're the one that knows the pricing and all of that. So it's going to take you longer.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That's just what I was struggling with, how to work that all out, because again, it's not how I've worked in the past. And I would like to trend more towards retainer work because for me, again, like you said, it's a lot harder to have to consistently always be seeking out clients for project work. Now I do, for some people, that's just what they need, is they just need a couple of, one-time graphics for their website or their social media, and then they're good. But there are others who are, again, looking to take that next step instead of always doing their own graphics. They just want to say, okay, here's for the month. This is what I'm going to need from you. Here's when I need it by, or whatever the case might be. And I much prefer to work that way than on a project basis.
Yeah. And, especially like when we're trying to figure all this stuff out, you may take on different clients, which is good because you're going to get money and you're really going to learn a lot. But as time goes on, you actually
figure out what you didn't like about.
Well, you want to get away from the one-offs and saying, look, here's what I offer. So I can either do a bigger project for you, or if you want these graphics, we can do a monthly thing, but our minimum is, you have to sign up for a 6-month package. And that way, the only people you're bringing in are the people that are going to pay you and be consistent. And then you know that you got them for whatever that time period is.
The other thing I was going to say too is if you know anybody else that's in the industry offering retainer packages, to reach out and see if you can chat with them and what they offer in their retainer packages, just to get an idea of, how are they wording things? What do they offer? What are they pricing it at? So that you have an idea just of, okay, well, this person over here also does web design and they're offering a retainer package at this. It includes these things. Even in some of the other industries too, I know Sarah was doing like PR retainers. So just kind of getting a feel for how people put those together, how they put the contracts together, and how they price.
Well, I was going to say,
Yeah.
one of the quickest hacks for this is to just go and pay for their service.
Or that true.
Because
Yeah.
you're going to get a couple things. You're going to see what is their process, right? You're going to see what's the quality, what's their turnaround time, what are they charging you? And then that's going to give you so much more clarity, and you're going to get to see the inner workings of maybe one of your competitors.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are just all things that I need to lay out because I want the guidelines, because I've done it in the past where I haven't had them. And then pretty soon it's taking me 6 months to finish somebody's website because I can't get their picture from them or whatever the case might be. And so now I have in place where I don't start anything until I have everything that I've asked you for. So it's, I've learned, throughout that process, and I'll probably just have to learn through this process, but it's a good place to start because I was like, I wouldn't have a clue on what to tell you. I probably would have just picked something and went with it and see how it worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and what we always tell people, so whenever you're offering something new, the people that ultimately buy from you later on and the first couple of people that you get are going to have different characteristics. So what I'm always looking for is, who are those types of people that are going to take a chance on me, for example, or take a chance on this new offer we have. So then you want to go and find those people, and then you set that up and you say, look, we're looking to offer this new thing. We haven't offered it before. So, part of you going through this process, you're going to get a discount or you're going to get extra, whatever it is. But, I also want your feedback on it so that we can ultimately turn this into it. So that way they know up front, this is new, there's going to be some kinks, and they're probably willing to do that either for a price reduction or whatever else. And then from your perspective, and this is where I always like people paying, even if it's a discounted rate, because they're going to be more committed. They're going to get better results. And then if you use them as a case study or a testimonial, you just got a win-win-win situation out of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I like that.
All right. So, Kristen, where can people find you if they want to find out more about you or reach out to you?
Yes, please come to my website, which now has social media graphics on it, which is Kristen, KristenWhitney.me, M-E, because I'm special like that. I don't have a .com. And you can also find me on Instagram, which is at KristenWhitney12. I share personal, family, and design stuff there. And then I'm also on Pinterest, which I have a longer username on Pinterest. So go to my website and find it from there.
And we'll link to all of those things that Kristen just mentioned in the show notes, which is going to be tomandariana.com/32.
All right. So one thing before we let you go, we talked about a lot of stuff today. So What is the one action that you're going to take coming out of this call?
What I'm going to do is I'm going to start doing some of those audit calls. I think it's going to be something that'd be a really great place to start. Do a couple free ones and then start moving into a smaller paid amount to do those and get some kind of proof of concept on that checklist and some more content for people who are coming to my website.
Love it.
Love it.
All right, you guys, it's been another great episode with Tom and Ariana, your hosts and lifestyle builders, and we want to extend, man, I cannot say things lately. Extend a very special thank you to Kristen, our special guest. And yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, sweet. And it's been another great episode, like Ariana said. So I want you guys to remember, it's your life, your business, your way. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Are you frustrated by a lack of momentum in your business? Do you want real-time guidance and support from seasoned entrepreneurs who really care about your results? If you're nodding your head or awkwardly shouting yes in public somewhere, then we invite you to join Lifestyle Builders, a mentorship program designed to meet you where you are and give you strategic and custom guidance so you can build the business you need for the life you crave. You can find out more at joinlifestylebuilders.com.
Your life, your business your way. Join Family Entrepreneur Life. Join Family Entrepreneur Life.